Ben Schiller.
Back then it was all about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and today it's about regulation, and it's no longer just about money, it's about culture, it's about politics. I think Elon Musk, a single tweet from him can move the market.
To say that crypto is going somewhere is ridiculous. This is a trend, a movement in tech that's very much here to stay. Expect to see it becoming part of our lives in many, many different ways.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the 99 Bitcoin's inaugural podcast. And I don't think there's anybody better to do it with than Ben Schiller. For all you that do not know, Ben is the managing editor of Features and Opinions at Coindesk and head of Consensus Magazine. He's a Brit turned American, graduating from the London School of Economics, but has worked as a journalist since the 90s and experienced the dot-com bubble in the 90s, of course, eventually leading him years down the line to Web3 and crypto. He's now one of the best journalists in the world on the topic, and I'm glad he's here to join me. Ben, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, man. I'm glad you got to come here. Now, I want to start off with, of course, a serious question, and I'm thinking, were your parents disappointed when you said you were going to be a journalist, or were they thinking, you'd be kind of a starving artist, or me in that industry? It's kind of how I always felt.
Well, it's been a while. I guess when I started in '97, it wasn't the industry that it is now. It's sort of hollowed out completely. So maybe it wasn't such a terrible career choice back in those days. I think if I was starting out now, I might have second thoughts about it because it is a different sort of industry. Yeah,
it's really hard. Yeah. Were your parents? Or were they? What did they work as?
My father was in textiles. He sold textiles to people. My mother was a housewife. So.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because for me, it must have just been my parents' thing, because they both were teachers, but when they heard I wanted to be a journalist, it wasn't a good conversation.
Go into banking or consulting or something.
Go be a president, astronaut, anything else. Yeah.
Anything but journalism.
So, I want to start with some definitions, because I think both of us, we kind of come from a crypto education background. So I was watching the show Euphoria the other day. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, and I didn't know they had a definition for Bitcoin there. I don't know if it's good, but I'm curious what you thought. So one of the kids, he was a drug dealer, I think his name was Ash, he explains what Bitcoin is. He says, Bitcoin is a worldwide cryptocurrency and digital payment system, full stop. So, how do you explain Bitcoin, and is that a good definition, or, what do you tell people when they ask you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the original definition, right? It's a payment system for decentralized money, but it's not necessarily used as a payment system, really. And I mean, the way I look at Bitcoin, it's really a movement, right? It's millions of people all around the world subscribing not only to a digital asset, but also to a set of values and to a set of principles that of decentralization, of self-sovereignty, of privacy, of personal empowerment. I think that's, to me, the most important aspect of it. And maybe we can talk about this later. Crypto is part of a wider movement in society, I think, towards individual empowerment. So that's what it really is to me. It's technology, but it's also an idea. It's a movement.
Okay. That's usually how you explain it to people. Well, how do they receive that? Because I know it's sometimes you get the wide-eyed glance of, okay, that makes sense, but, does that usually, do people get it when you explain it like that?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people don't really think about it like that. They just see a bunch of people together, like trading a digital asset and making money from it. And, the criticism of crypto is it's a bunch of bros, like, being bros, but it's much, much more than that, and crypto is about hard money. It's about taking control of your life, control of your bank, and not being reliant on the government to make decisions about how much money we have or what our money is worth.
Sure.
So I think that's the important thing. It's interesting, Satoshi Nakamoto can say what he thought or she thought Bitcoin was when invented it in that white paper, but it's become like a platform for people to do lots and lots of different things on top of. So whatever you and I think it is, another person would think differently, and some people think about it as sort of a hedge against inflation. Other people look at it more like a payment system. So and then Bitcoin today it's more than just that, layer one. There's a lot of activity on top of it as well. So it's, again, like a open source platform.
I'm mad I didn't bring this. I printed it out. It was a action figure called Crypto Bro, and it just had a guy with like a digital, like his physical wallet there, and it just made him look like a total young 20s degenerate guy. So we got to get into how does this industry branch out more than that, because the studies where it's, most guys are into crypto. It's 30 years old, 20 years old.
Yeah,
People like my parents or whoever. It's like very hard to get them into. But we'll have to get into that. I'm curious now your individual journey here, because I've read that you went through the 90s crash, of course, and you probably were like, okay, there's problems with centralization. For me, I got into Make Crypto in 2019, and then in 2020 when the banks printed more than 50% of the cash that ever existed, I was like, okay, there's something weird going on here. But what was it that, a lot of people say when Greeks' financial system collapsed, that made them kind of think, what was the one thing that, kind of made you think, okay, having a reliance on these systems might not work in the long term and we need something else?
Well, I mean, I also saw 2007, 2008 financial crisis, and that was a clear moment where, the people who were supposed to be looking after the system were not looking after the system, and the thing imploded, and it could have been even worse than it was. And it was a clear moment when you could see this self-interested group of elite people in government, in banks, just self-dealing for themselves, and externalizing all the losses from that crisis to homeowners and to people on the street while they walked off with their fat paychecks, and there seems to be no responsibility or accountability for that moment. And obviously that gave rise to Bitcoin. And that's why I say, Bitcoin is more than just, a payment system. It's about exit, right? It's about people saying, we don't want anything to do with this fucking thing anymore. We want to invent our own system. And that's, it's taken a while, but that is happening today, And I think if you look at it in the context of this election now, I don't want to get too political, but it's absurd what we're seeing in this election with these two candidates who are, in my opinion, both unfit in different ways.
Sure.
And you can see why people want to exit this status quo, this system that we had invented by our parents, and are now looking for something new. So that was really the moment for me. And it's taken a while, but I think we're seeing that right now. People are taking the reins of their life, and they're not reliant on Biden or Trump to say what goes anymore. Yeah,
they're fed up. They're angry at something, but they don't know exactly what they should be angry at.
Exactly.
I see that a lot online, especially. They say, okay, something's wrong, but what's the solution? Then, right.
I mean, it's also, Bitcoin, and a lot of people have talked about it being a political technology or a protest technology. And I think there's a lot to that. There's about people searching for something that's new, and it is like Trump, like 2 fingers up to the system. It's like saying we're going to do it our own way, and you can't stop us. And that's happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab. Yeah, I don't usually use notes, but these notes fell over here because I want to read another quote. I'm curious what you think about this. This is from Victor Hugo. Quote: "Nothing in business is more powerful than an idea whose time and technology has come." Right. So has Bitcoin's time come? Because I think the argument against it is, and you being in the opinion section of Coindesk, the biggest crypto media outlet on the planet. Everyone propped up people like Sam Bankman-Fried or FTX. It's like these are the biggest influencers of the time. So has, confidence in this market eroded, and that we're going to have to wait so much longer for time, for this technology to adopt? It's simple technology, but do people trust it,
I mean, I think the ETF announcements was really key to underpinning confidence in this new cycle. So, SBF, FTX was a massive story. We broke the story about that balance sheet, and it led to a big fall in the market. But it did allow for other people to come in and kind of take a look at this technology and adopt it for themselves. And like it or not, those big banks came up with their own way of getting into Bitcoin, which was an ETF. And you can argue whether an ETF is really crypto, but it is normalizing crypto. It is making crypto okay for people who were anti-crypto after the FTX crisis and some of the other scandals that we saw. It gave them license. It gave them a window to come back into this space and to underpin it with these products. And ETFs have been tremendously successful. Some of the most popular ETFs of all time. And now we're seeing the ETH ETF as well, and that's going to do the same thing for Ethereum. Giving that kind of broad base of kind of institutional support for this movement. So yeah, I think it's very much the time has come. It's coming. It's happening. So, and people say, well, we don't have the adoption, we don't have what we want, but movements, revolutions take time. We're working against huge kind of inertia kind of powers in our society, and you can't just launch a technology and hope for it to kind of take off overnight. It takes time. The original internet took a long time to get established. We kind of forget that, and it's the same with Bitcoin now. And instead of saying, well, where's the adoption? Just look at the adoption. We have millions and millions of people all around the world, in every country of the world, who are now using Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin, talking about Bitcoin, and other technologies that are related to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's happening. It's here.
That usually does make me the most optimistic about when you meet people from around the world, especially I met people from Africa, Ghana, and they actually use crypto. They actually use crypto, and you're like, oh wow, this is actually interesting. You guys actually using it. Here in America, we'll use whatever the hell we feel like using. It's like, all right, yeah, I'll pay with Doge. But it is. I am curious, almost to push back a little bit, because you have SBF buying, stadiums and having all these huge and now his girlfriend Carolyn Ellison has been like the butt of jokes and everything. If you don't, I know, poor girl. If you don't know about it, go on our Buttcoin, and that's probably the place to go where you want to see people crap on crypto all the time. But these places become big. And when these scandals happen, they only, and there's another one. What Web3 is going great. It's another one.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
yeah, that one always has something. So I mean, do you see? I don't know. How do you see movements like that? But that grind against all this.
Haters are going to hate. There are always going to be critics. There's a whole sort of industry of criticism of crypto. A lot of people have done well out of selling books and being on kind of anti-crypto podcasts, and particularly on the kind of left wing of the Democratic kind of party, that kind of political stripe.
That's weird, isn't that? Wouldn't you think that? I feel like politically wise, you would think Democrats would be more with crypto.
Exactly. It's a kind of a weird thing. This is about empowerment and helping people, and yet that kind of wing of the party can only see the financial speculation. They only see the kind of the bros getting rich, stealing from other people. But that's like a tiny slither of what crypto is.
Sure.
And for those people to be so kind of anti this movement, I believe it's going to hurt them politically. And I think we're seeing that play out now. I'm not a Trump fan, but I think he's taken, there was a big void in terms of who was supporting crypto, and which was really no one in the political class. And Trump saw an opportunity to take up that space, and I think it's really going to benefit him. He's going to have most of crypto at his back going into this election, while the Democrats look like they're against the future. They're against young people taking up this movement. I think it's so stupid politically on their part.
Yeah, you just saw on the All In podcast, and a lot of Silicon Valley people just welcome Trump with open arms now, which is, it's very almost Orwellian, eerie at least, where you say, okay, this is interesting now. Maybe not Orwellian, but let's say it subverts what you would expect. You're like, oh, okay, this is going to happen now. So you think Trump wins then, most likely?
I think Trump wins, and I think Biden, frankly, is going to fall over, and so I think he might win by default kind of thing. But just in terms of the crypto, I think Trump is going to be good for crypto. He's opening up a space for other people in the Republican Party to kind of side with crypto. And I think, in November, once we see that the new Congress, there's going to be a lot of support for doing legislation finally in this space. We've waited so long for, the politicians to take it seriously. That happened during SBF. He ruined the whole thing because he was an idiot. But
don't set up your company in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
probably, not legitimate.
He was kind of legitimizing crypto, and then they took personal affront when he turned out to be the person he is and was. and that turned them off from supporting crypto at all. And we saw this kind of big backlash. And also, the politics of the Democrats, the Warren wing ganging up with, Gensler and the SEC to just go after any kind of infraction they could see, and this endless campaign of arbitrary enforcement. It scared a lot of people away from this industry and from this activity. But I think Trump and this election really opens things up again, for better and worse. But it normalizes it, and I think we will see real legislation and real regulation coming out of this election.
Sure,
I think.
Yeah, let's stay on Trump for maybe just a couple questions I have. So do you think he's a legitimate advocate of crypto? Because, there's the famous quote where, this might have been 2018, where he says, all of crypto is a scam, which, Trump will say anything. I think he just recently said he would bomb, I don't know if he said this exactly, but I saw it was trending. People like, oh, you'd bomb Russia or whatever. So he just throws things out there and, you don't know what. You take it. He's, as Dave Chappelle said, he's an honest liar.
Yeah.
So
that's
true.
Like at least you know where he is, know where you are with him, in terms of what he's like.
So what do you think? Is he gonna is placating it enough? Even if he isn't full 100%?
I mean, he is a presidential candidate, so what he says does matter, So, and I think even, he said the other day that he wanted to have all remaining Bitcoin mined in the United States.
I saw that, which is impossible, but funny. Which is
absolutely impossible. But as with a lot of things with Trump, it's like it's not so much whether that could be literally true.
Yeah.
Are we actually going to see all the mining machines in the world come back to the United States? Probably not unless there's some huge government incentive or something. But just him saying that, it matters. It shows that he's making crypto into a kind of a stars and stripes issue, which is good for Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, let's get into fake news. I think that's now we can get a little bit into our background. Leapfrog there. In the space that you work in, I have a training from USA Today. That's where I got my first journalism beats from. But there is we have our own politics. You get what you mean with Trump's fake news. When Trump says the media is scum, you get what he's meaning because USA Today was one of the good ones. But then you go to other people, even New York Post or whichever media outlet. So what do people deal with in the crypto media industry? I've worked in only 2 outlets, but is there politics to this, or is there, infighting? I mean, what goes on there that people don't know about?
Well, just on the question of, fake media, I mean, it's really scary now these days being in a newsroom and dealing in this environment because there's so much misinformation out there. When you can create a video with AI showing something directly.
Oh my God. Did you see the Elon Musk video recently?
Exactly.
The one where he said, I think he just said, put your wallet in here or something, and people lost hundreds of thousands because it was a it was a Starlink YouTube channel. It had millions of subscribers. Right. So, but it was a fake AI.
I mean, it's scary for everyone and scary as a media newsroom because how do you know something is true or not? We had a story last night with DJT coin, which is pumping today. Yes. We were scrambling to find out whether this was actually backed by the Trump campaign because it was out there, it was going up and up and up, and we wanted to know whether this was something, because somebody said from an outlet that's not particularly well known that Barron Trump, Trump's son, was behind this project, that he created this coin, which would be a massive story. The ex-president's son creates a cryptocurrency to support his father's re-election bid. It's a massive story. But, we contacted the Trump campaign. They wouldn't give us an answer. They kind of, messed us around. And so what do you do with a story like that? The thing is pumping. There's clearly interest in it. You have to say something about it. But is it actually true what people are saying about it? So it's really a hard situation to cover because you have to say something, but what do you say exactly?
Sure.
Because you can't know what's true or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of conjecture, I would say, in the financial journalism industry in general, it seems to me, or let's say a lot of I feel like a lot of salaciousness too, where it's like, well, we just got to be the first to do this,
right.
I don't know. Has that been your experience? Like for me, for instance, I worked at a company. They were a Motley Fool competitor, and they got sued for not being. They put their disclaimer at the bottom, but it wasn't enough, and people were losing money.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, we're suing your guys' asses," So.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think? Financial journalism has that problem, or I mean, you read the Wall Street Journal and they seem, respectable, or Financial Times, but
Yeah.
a lot of smaller outlets, and or let's just say medium to smaller outlets, they kind of run into this problem where it's just one story, just buy this bit, this is the thing to get.
Yeah, it's really hard out there, and it's hard to get scale. It's hard to get traction, and you're fighting all the time to get stories that people want to read and consume. So if you're a smaller outlet, then it's really hard to break through.
That's
and
a
I
good
think
point.
there's so much crypto media these days, and still, I don't want to poo-poo other things. Still, a lot of it's kind of quite bad, really. It doesn't follow what you would think to be like journalistic practice, and that's one thing we've really tried to do at Coindesk. I've been there for 5 years now, is to really have those kind of journalistic standards.
Yeah.
That we wouldn't publish a story until we know that it's really correct. Like the FTX, balance sheet story. You can't just take a balance sheet that somebody gives you at a party and just publish a story on that, because you had a $40 billion company that went down overnight. If we didn't know that balance sheet was really the balance sheet of FTX, we never could have published that. So how do you corroborate that and make sure it's true? I mean, it turned out in FTX case that he was hawking 9 different balance sheets around different investors, because they were trying to go to IPO. So there were many versions of the truth, but the balance sheet that we had was an accurate reflection of the company's financial position. So we had to corroborate that. But if you're a smaller outlet and you're sort of desperate for that attention, the temptation to run with a story like that before you've really established every single kind of aspect of it is enormous. So it's hard, and people kind of get away with it on Twitter because you can kind of say things that might be true or not true. And people kind of take it with a grain of salt. But if you're really a media organization, then you don't publish something until it's true.
Yeah.
Especially a story like that, especially a story that is attacking an individual for something. You can't just mouth off about it.
Sure.
So it's not responsible.
I saw you had some contentious opinions about Elon Musk in that sense, where do you think he's being irresponsible sometimes with how he acts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the things he says are very sort of offhand, and it doesn't seem like he's really being responsible about the enormous kind of voice that he has in our world. So I feel that some of the things he says are a bit sort of late night kind of comments.
Sleepy Kanye texts.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, it's people can say whatever they want, but if you're in the media, then you can't just say whatever you want, really.
Sure.
So
he's in a lot of things, I guess. Right? Yeah. He probably has a tremendous responsibility, I would say, probably on his shoulders.
Yeah.
I think let's get into the market action today.
All right.
Let's talk about why has crypto been crabbing and honestly, kind of a wet fart for the last 4 months after what happened, in April, the Bitcoin halving, where now we have less supply going out on the market, and ostensibly it should go up because we're going to have a squeeze of supply, but that hasn't happened. So what's going on there? Why is crypto not doing well?
Well, I think the first reason is more that it's sleepy summertime, right? I think a lot of people are not sort of engaged in the same way that they would be in the fall or the spring. So I think this time, if you look at the historical pattern of trading in cryptocurrencies, there is this drop off in the summertime.
Why is that? Is that because people are going on vacation, or?
Well, because a lot of people in crypto only want to trade when a lot of other people are trading. So there's this kind of this impact of once some people leave the market, then other people will just sort of give up and say, I don't want to trade in a kind of flat environment when there's not a lot of volume. So I think we're seeing part of that now. I think crypto trades a lot on narrative, and we don't really have a big narrative for the market at the moment. At the beginning of the year, it was very much about those ETFs, and everyone was buying Bitcoin and buying other cryptos in expectation of that approval of the ETFs and the issuance of the ETFs. So that kind of underpinned it. And then there was a big kind of push after that with when the ETFs came out to kind of get on that bandwagon, and and the price went up to 70,000. I mean, the other question is why is it flatlined at 70,000?
Yeah.
You know, this
Hasn't gone up, past it really
it's
at
kind
all.
of a weird thing, and I think there's also that kind of like once you've reached that kind of psychological milestone of getting the all-time high, it's like almost like, well, we can take it easy now because we proved something about the viability of Bitcoin, and that you don't have the same kind of like communication around it. Like, let's get the price up to a certain number, and it's kind of a collective kind of action there. And we're also seeing people go into other projects and other sort of things at the moment, other than just concentrating on Bitcoin. So I think that's one reason. And I think we're in a holding pattern in terms of, you know, regulation as well. So we're waiting for that next narrative to really come along that's going to give a push to the market. There's really nothing big out there that's really pushing the price up. So, I mean, I think Ethereum is probably more of a coiled spring at the moment in terms of its ability to rise up because of this ETF situation. I think once we see those ETFs, people start using those, we're going to see a similar impact on ETH that we saw on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a messy situation. Even though they were approved, we don't know, any clarity on that. Then someone from the SEC I saw was left today, I believe.
Right.
So the head of the crypto division, I want to say, the crypto crackdown
the
division.
enforcement division, yeah.
Yes.
David Hirsch.
Yeah, David Hirsch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see how that goes. We'll be slightly irresponsible in this next question, only slightly, nothing. But if you were someone out there who doesn't have much money, let's say just like 10K, 15K, NVIDIA did just become the most valuable company in the world.
Right.
We have AI now. How are you looking at, if you're just someone with 10, 15K, how would you invest that money?
Well, I mean, I get asked this question a lot, and I always say the same thing. If you're not, first of all, don't invest it if you can't afford to lose it. It's like going to Vegas. So, but then
Credit card debt is at a record high.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I would definitely pick the top coins and always look for projects that have that kind of real community backing to them, because that's really the kind of basis for whether a coin or a crypto project has long-term sustainability. I mean, it's one thing to trade like in a few hours, but if you're really putting down an investment for a few years, you want to see a lot of developers and a big community in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Polkadot or Solana. You want to see that kind of broad base that's going to allow you to kind of have a relatively safe investment, and then and you should probably leave it there for a while and just see it appreciate. So I would definitely go for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, and a couple of others.
Okay.
So. But it's definitely not financial advice, and I've personally lost some money in the markets over the years.
I'm sure everybody.
I'm not some kind of oracle here, So,
yeah. So what about do you mess with any meme coins? What do you think of that phenomena? We were talking about the Trump coin earlier.
Yeah.
I'm sure Trump coin is gonna make a lot of people rich if he does become president.
People can make fun of meme coins, but this is like real energy, creativity. It's really a lot of fun. So, I mean, I have traded a few meme coins, but really just to kind of write about them and to understand them rather than seeing them as serious investments. So, but I think we're headed to a world of, 1 billion meme coins, right? We're going to have, whenever you have like a campaign to launch a new product, people will have their own meme coins personally. We're moving to a world of like endless, meme coins created for whatever situation that you like. So I think this phenomenon is only just starting up,
Yeah.
And, there's a kind of big crossover between meme coins and NFTs. It's almost like meme coins are the new NFTs. It's kind of a way for people to be creative and express themselves and to put out a message to the world about who they are and what they want, and how they see the world. So I think there's a lot of crossover between, NFTs and the kind of the new rules of, marketing, of personal brand building and, communications. So I think memes are a part of that, meme coins are a part of that.
It is interesting. Yeah. I don't, I know in Bitcoins, we started covering memes, and I think it's, it's just the whole phenomenon of it is very weird to see that these things are, doing a lot better than most of the market right now.
Yeah.
And, you kind of get it because people want this instantaneous wealth. You know, it's
Yeah.
like buying a lottery ticket, pretty
Right.
much, right?
Really
But
is.
it just it's it's a strange phenomenon.
It's just, I mean, it's strange, but it's, you know, as long as you don't take it too seriously, as long as you don't expect to have it as a long-term investment, I don't see a problem in it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
So,
and you could tell the weird part of it is you can tell which ones might work or not.
Right.
You know, I know the founder of the Mew project, Dog in a Cat's World, and it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, they kind of needed a cat meme coin. You know, there's only a bunch of dog ones now.
Right.
So it's just weird. It's really strange, but it's just gonna keep working. It's kind of hard. It feels, you know, I'm only 27, and it feels that I'm already like I'm too old to understand this. And you know, people are like, "Why?" You're
Right.
like, I just look at it like, what's going on? You know,
Right.
It's weird. So
I just turned 50, so I'm almost twice your age. So yeah, it's confusing, but fun, I think.
yeah.
So,
Are we still early? Is everything still early? I heard Raoul Pal, I believe, say recently, we're in the like this is AOL for crypto, pretty much.
1 billion%, you know,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think it's this psychological thing. I've been in crypto for 10 years, and people have been worrying about, like, am I too late? Should have I missed the boat? And absolutely not. You know, we're just in the first inning, to use a cliche,
Sure.
of this movement, of this revolution of money. You know, money is moving to the internet. It's becoming digital, and Bitcoin is only the first part of that. And we're going to see so much more, you know, developer activity on top of these chains, in a lot more innovation. It's only just the beginning of that. And if you look at the amount of people that actually hold crypto around the world or are actively engaged in crypto day to day, it's still a relatively small number, even if the people are invested in it sort of emotionally and, you know, in terms of their friend group. You know, people are not like using crypto that much yet. So, you know, that whole user adoption question is still to be played out. And I think once we do have, you know, millions of people around the world actively using crypto to manage their finances, to do lots of things that are not monetary in nature, then, you know, we're going to see all kinds of new innovation that we can only, you know, dream of now. So yeah, I think it's still very early.
Sure. No, that sounds good. I think I talked to the VeChain founder too, and he said pretty much people won't even know what it is. Like, it'll be kind of in the background. It'll be something that you don't even know about. Kind of how I don't understand how my phone works. It's pretty much
Exactly.
I think Naval Ravikant said that. He's like, you're pretty much sending your kids to Hogwarts if you know, send them to how to code or do anything. Because I look at it, I'm just like, I don't understand how this works. So if AI gets created, maybe we really will be, you know, like AI super overlord. So I'm like, I don't know how that works or any of this works. And,
I think the fusion of
crypto
AI and
is
crypto
kind of in that same boat.
I think when you get the fusion of AI and crypto, you know, people talk a lot about the kind of user experience of crypto. I mean, I think the new user experience of crypto is going to be AI. You're going to have an AI agent that's going to be investing and managing your money on your behalf. And instead of having to go to Coinbase and making some complicated transaction or something more complicated than Coinbase, you know, you're just going to be able to speak into your phone saying, I want to trade my Tether for my Dogecoin, and it's going to like find a way to do that. It's going to find a pathway through these payment rails or these financial rails to allow you to do that. And I think that's the feature that we're looking for. It's not going to be like you having to work it out, you know, piecing together the system. It's just going to be you, you know, enabling an AI agent to go and do something on your behalf. So I think in some ways the whole kind of question of user interfaces becomes kind of moot in some sense, because we're not going to be doing it on our behalf. Other things are going to be doing it for us.
Sure.
You know? So
yeah, no, it sounds exciting. I'm trying to look through my notes. My handwriting's so terrible.
yeah, that's pretty terrible.
I know, it's really bad. They say, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I could be wrong, but I think a girl once told me if your handwriting's bad, it means that you're a genius or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be true.
I think it's something along those lines. But
must be true in your case.
I can't. She probably was just lying to me like everyone else. But this wrapping it up, which is a couple more questions. What kind of hobbies or anything do you do? Because I think, when people like jokingly say to crypto bros, touch grass, it is like you should get away from your portfolio every now and then and go do something that isn't, revolved around crypto. So what do you do? What do you recommend to people to do to kind of, have their cigarette break almost?
Right.
So
I mean, I like to box a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In terms of, I also organize a salon that we call the D Salon.
Yeah, which isn't a hair salon. We were getting into
No,
that
it's
earlier.
not it's not a hair salon. It's more, salon was a concept that goes back to, early 1900s with people gathering in a living room to talk about the future of the world. That's kind of the concept.
Oh, wow.
And we're taking that concept for crypto or for the decentralization movement, and we're doing these salons all around the world attached to major conferences like Consensus, ETH Denver, etc., and organizing these small gatherings of people to discuss the future. And that's partly about Web3, but also kind of a broader conversation about other forms of exit, I think, as well, that are propelling people to live independently, live globally, live in a kind of mobile way. And, we're seeing the end of these kind of old line institutions and the replacement of this new movement that is backed by crypto, empowered by AI, empowering people to live their own lives. And that's what this salon is really about. So please check us out and come
we'll
along.
Definitely plug it in,
We're looking to do these all around the world, and people can do their own salon as well. It's a decentralized movement. So, get in touch if you're interested in doing that.
Yeah, you just sparked a question in my head while you were saying that about the old institutions going. We know Elon Musk is trying to almost make WeChat basically with Twitter,
right,
and almost, I guess, jump over all the financial institute. Is there anybody you see that would be gone in the next, 10, 15 years of our lives? Like even kind of Google scrambling to get their AI, or people aren't really catching up to crypto as fast. I mean, do you see like any industries being like irrevocably, replaced, I guess?
I mean, I think, Silicon Valley and Bitcoin is coming for finance, and I think...
Do you think they'll be able to jump on and like how BlackRock is and just take kind of a, I guess, absorb it in a way and be like, oh, we're on top now, this is ours?
Well, I mean, is BlackRock really embracing crypto when it launches an ETF? I mean, I don't want to talk badly about... I'm not talking badly about BlackRock, but they're not exactly investing in the technology of crypto by having an ETF.
Yeah.
So the bigger question is like, what happens to financial institutions in a world in which you can pass money or financial value over the internet in a peer-to-peer manner?
Mm-hmm.
So why do we need institutions to originate loans, for instance? Why do we need banks to hold our money? Why do we need banks to give us kind of simple, basic communication technology, financial technology, when this is freely available, on the internet in an open source form? And I think, that's the world in which we're moving towards, and it is a world that's going to be a lot less mediated by finance. I think finance becomes a more open source movement than it is today. Yeah.
Interesting. And I guess just maybe this might be the most important question. How do you see, this cycle playing out? Because now I think we're in no man's land where anything could happen, right? I think a lot of people are saying this should be, altcoin summer, crypto summer, and who knows, people will be listening to this in, 5 years from now. But like, it doesn't matter. But right now, people are saying, what's going on? This is, did the ETFs mess up the cycle? Or did we have it, did it happen too fast? And now we have to, for the rest of the year, nothing will happen. I mean, how do you see all this playing out?
Well, as I said, I've been in crypto for 10 years and I've seen a lot of ups and downs, and this is by far the most exciting time that I can remember, because there's so much. If you go to like conferences, if you go meet people face to face, you see this movement out there that really is building the future, and there's a lot of money out there, there's a lot of energy out there, and that's really, really exciting. So in terms of the market itself, I think, we're in a bit of a plateau period now, but, there's a lot of energy pent up in this market to invest in new things, to propel Bitcoin forward. And I don't know what the price of Bitcoin is going to be at the end of the year, but it's definitely going to be higher than it is today. 100,000, something like that. I think is quite.
That'll definitely be the day. And just thinking about with our site, 99 Bitcoins, we do a lot of obituaries of all the people that have said,
Right.
this is dead, it's dead, it's dead, it's dead. I mean, God, if it broke 100K, it would just be, you know, just even if you don't like the technology, you got to admit it's just funny. You know? It's just ironic and funny, and wow, I mean, you kind of, you know, the Peter Schiffs, the Warren Buffetts of the world. It's like, well, you know, you got yours.
I think there's crypto's on the up and up, and I think we're going to see a lot of products that we can't even dream of now come on board. And if we're speaking in a year's time, it'll look completely different again. So everything's changing really fast. So just hold your hats, you know, just stay with it.
I love that. Yeah, hold your hats. Well, yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for joining us at the inaugural podcast. I think unless we get, you know, Vitalik Buterin or Satoshi calls us up next week,
I'm sure he's available.
We'll say, all right, you'll be episode 2. But but yeah, thanks so much. Thanks. Where can people find you? Or what should, I mean, we know you're on Coindesk. We know you have a great medium. I love your, you know, I think that's why I was almost like attracted to your writings. I just love being, I have a medium, like a big medium following. I just like more, you know, op-eds, you know, than as a, you know, compared to news writing. You know? It's fun, but you know, so where do people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter, so or X, BT Schiller. That's BT SCHILLER. You can find me on Instagram, find me on Coindesk, and you can find me at a D-Salon near you as well. And also, I'd like to say, like, the opinion section at Coindesk is very much like an open platform for anyone to contribute. So if you do have an idea for an opinion article that you would like to see in Coindesk, please get in touch. My email is ben@coindesk.com. We're always looking for new contributions from every part of the industry. We also podcast ourselves and newsletters, so there's a lot of opportunity to get different voices out there. So please get in touch if you're interested in being involved.
Yeah, I think that's a great pitch because there's so much diversity. You know, whether people agree or disagree, whether they're Bitcoin maximalists or whatever, Dogecoin maximalists, there's a lot of cool, you know, ideas.
And that's what I really love about this space. It's such a kind of broad, like, movement of different types of people.
It's really weird. There's not many, I think I talk to people all the time, and we'll leave it at this, but there's not really many, the scenes are dead pretty much. You know, there's no punk scene really in New York because it's global. I go to, I was born in Oklahoma. You go to Oklahoma, it's like New York now pretty much, but just on a smaller scale. But there's not many scenes, and this is, you know, one of the few that is kind of a weird niche group of, you know, people that are trying to do something. So yeah, and hopefully, you know, we'll see where it goes.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Here at 99 Bitcoins, we're the #1 hub for crypto education on the internet. So if you like that video, check out some other ones over here. And no more meme coins, we promise.